She cupped my face, smiled, and said, "You're the only one I'll ever love." Truth is, 2 hours later I stood outside our bedroom door and heard her laughing with him, and that sound, her laugh, broke me more than any words ever could. You know, love makes you blind, but laughter cuts through the dark like a knife. Let me take you back. 3 years ago, on a Saturday morning in Portland, I met her at a bookstore cafe. She was holding a copy of The Alchemist, flipping through the last pages, and she looked up at me like I had interrupted some sacred ritual. She wore this oversized gray sweater, sleeves pulled over her hands, and ordered a $4.75 chai latte with oat milk. I was behind her in line, fumbling with my card, and she laughed when I dropped it. That laugh? Yeah. That's the same one that would later destroy me. Back then it was magic. I asked her if the book was worth it. She said, "It's about chasing your destiny." I joked, "Maybe my destiny's standing right in front of me." She laughed again, and I swear the barista rolled his eyes, but I didn't care. We sat at a corner table that morning, talking about travel, about how she wanted to see Italy someday, ride a Vespa through Rome, eat real pizza. I told her I wanted a cabin in the mountains, wood stove burning, snow outside. She said, "Then we'll do both." Just like that, she made it sound like forever was simple, like it was already ours. And from then on, it was us. Late-night Target runs for snacks we didn't need. Hiking trails where she'd insist on taking 50 pictures of the same wildflower. Sundays spent at her apartment cooking pasta while she danced barefoot on the cold tile, stirring sauce with a wooden spoon and singing off-key. Every little thing felt like proof that I was the only one. She reinforced it constantly, sticky notes on my laptop saying, "Love you always," voice notes whispering, "Don't forget you're mine." Even her friends teased her, "You're obsessed with him." And she'd smile and say, "Yeah, because he's it. He's my one, and me? I bought it all. Hook, line, and sinker." I built my life around those words. Then came the small cracks. Her phone face down at dinner. A new cologne smell on her jacket that wasn't mine. Nights where she'd say she was too tired but spent an extra hour in the bathroom with her phone. I told myself it was nothing. That's what trust does. It covers the cracks with wallpaper until the whole wall caves in. That Thursday night I made her favorite dinner. Homemade tacos with extra guac, $1.50 avocados from Safeway. We sat on the couch watching some reality dating show, the kind where contestants cry in hot tubs. And she leaned against me, kissed my jaw, and whispered, "You're the only one I'll ever love." My chest swelled like it always did. She went to the bedroom for her work call, told me not to wait up. I cleaned the dishes, scrolled my phone, tried to stay awake, but then I heard it, her laugh. That exact same laugh from the bookstore, the one she said was mine, except it wasn't. It was softer, warmer, like she was sharing a secret. And then his voice, low, confident. "You're terrible," he said, and she giggled harder, whispering, "Stop." I froze in the hallway, hand on the doorframe, heart pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. I wanted to believe it was a show, a video, something innocent. But then he said, "So I'm the only one, right?" And she answered without hesitation, "Always." My whole world tilted. I backed away before she could hear me breathing. I sat on the couch staring at the blank TV screen, replaying those words until they felt like knives. My mind raced. Maybe it was a joke, maybe it was nothing. But my gut told me the truth. And you ever get that sinking feeling that the life you built is about to collapse? That was me, right there at 11:27 p.m. Tacos still on the counter, her laugh still echoing in my ears. And I knew my forever had just started cracking. Truth is, once you hear something like that, you can't unhear it. You can't scrub it out with logic or drown it with excuses. It sticks to your chest like smoke. The next morning she was all sunshine, making pancakes in the kitchen, pouring maple syrup like nothing in the world was wrong. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Morning, love." And I smiled back, but inside, I was dissecting every movement, every word.
You ever look at someone you thought you knew and wonder if they're a stranger?
That's exactly how it felt. I noticed little things I'd brushed off before. Her phone never left her hand anymore. Face down on the counter, silenced notifications, screen lighting up, and her thumb sliding over it so fast you'd think she was playing a video game. At dinner, she used to toss it on the couch and forget about it. Now it was like an extra limb. And then there were the late nights. Work calls, she said, with the London team, with the Tokyo team, with whoever she could conjure up. But her job? It didn't require late calls every night. Once, maybe twice a month at most. Yet suddenly it was 3-4 times a week. I told myself I was being paranoid. But paranoia doesn't explain perfume that isn't hers. Doesn't explain her slipping back into the apartment at 11:30 p.m. with her hair a little messy and her cheeks too flushed for just a meeting. I started noticing her laughter, too. The way she rationed it. With me it was softer, almost forced, like she was performing happiness. But on the phone, when she thought I wasn't listening, it was unrestrained, sparkling, the laugh I used to own. I'll never forget one Friday night. She sat on the balcony with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, phone pressed to her ear, whispering. I walked past the sliding door quietly, and just as I did, she covered her mouth and giggled. Then I heard her say, "Stop, you're making me blush." My stomach dropped. That was not a coworker. That was not business. That was intimacy. That was a side of her she used to save only for me. I stood in the kitchen, hand shaking so hard I spilled water on the counter, and I whispered to myself, if I'm the only one, why is she giving that laugh to him? The next day I decided to test her. I asked casually, "Hey, how was your call last night?" She blinked too quickly, then smiled and said, "Oh, just boring work stuff." And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't believe her. My friends noticed too. At a barbecue, Jake pulled me aside and asked, "Everything good with you two? She seems distant." I forced a smile, said, "Yeah, we're fine." But inside, I was dying. I wanted to scream, to tell him everything, but I couldn't even admit it to myself. Instead, I became a detective in my own relationship. I checked her Uber receipts. One ride dropped her off in a neighborhood we had no friends in, no reason to visit. I looked at our shared credit card statements. $86 at a fancy restaurant downtown. Charged on a night, she told me she was working late. I confronted her about it, and she laughed it off, said, "Oh, that was with coworkers. Team dinner." But when I asked which coworkers, she couldn't name one. That laugh, her deflection laugh, cut me. I started losing sleep. I'd wake up at 2 a.m., glance at her beside me, and wonder if the smile she wore in her dreams was for me or for him. I'd stare at the ceiling, heart racing, replaying every moment where I might have missed the signs. The sticky notes she used to leave me stopped appearing. The way she used to squeeze my hand in public faded. Even her "I love you" sounded like recycled lines. And still, when I confronted myself in the mirror, I kept asking, maybe it's just stress. Maybe it's work. Maybe I'm crazy. But then, one night changed everything. She said she was heading to the office for a late session. I kissed her goodbye at 8:30 p.m., watched her Uber pull away. 10 minutes later, I opened our shared email account and saw the receipt. An Uber headed not to her office, but to the east side of town. A place I knew. A place with bars and little boutique hotels. My chest went hollow. I drove there myself, parked across the street, and waited. At 9:15, she appeared, stepping out of a cab in a red dress I'd never seen before, hair styled differently, laughing into her phone. And then I saw him, a man tall wearing a black jacket. He reached out, touched her waist, and she leaned into him like it was the most natural thing in the world. And then it happened, her laugh. That laugh I'd memorized, the one I thought belonged only to me, echoing across the street into my ears like a cruel reminder. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight I thought it would snap. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I just sat there staring while she gave my laugh away. And in that moment, I knew the truth I had been avoiding. I wasn't the only one. I never was. After that night, something inside me snapped. You know, once you see her leaning into another man, once you hear her laugh ring out like it's rehearsed for him, you can't just go back to eggs and coffee in the morning pretending nothing happened. But truth is, I didn't want to explode without proof. I wanted evidence, something undeniable, because if I confronted her too soon, she'd twist it, make me look crazy. And I wasn't crazy. Not anymore. The next day she woke up humming, frying bacon like she hadn't just crushed me hours earlier. She asked if I wanted extra toast and kissed my cheek. Her lipstick left a faint red smudge on my skin, and all I could think was, whose skin did she touch last night? I smiled, forced myself to chew, but in my head I was making a plan. First move, her phone. She never let it out of her sight, but people slip, so I waited. That afternoon she hopped in the shower, left it charging on the nightstand. My heart pounded as I picked it up. Face ID locked, no chance. But then I remembered. Our shared laptop. She'd logged into her email there once and probably never logged out. I opened it, and there it was. Not her main inbox, but a hidden folder buried under receipts. My stomach dropped. Dinner reservations, hotel confirmations, even Uber rides, all under a different email alias she must have created. The most recent was the night before. 2 entrees, a $120 bill, a room at a boutique hotel on the east side. The confirmation email spelled it out in black and white. Her name and his, together. My hands shook so badly I nearly slammed the laptop shut. But I kept reading, screenshotting everything, forwarding it to myself. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. But part of me wanted more. I needed to hear it, not just read it. So the next day I downloaded a voice recorder app, hid my old phone under the passenger seat of her car. I know, it sounds insane. But when trust is gone, you start grasping at shadows until you drag the truth into the light. 2 days later, I retrieved the phone, hands sweating as I pressed play. There she was, her voice, soft, playful, saying, "You always make me laugh." And then his voice, low, answering, "That's because you're mine." My vision blurred. I sat in the garage with the engine off, listening to it over and over, my pulse hammering so loud I thought the neighbors would hear. Every giggle, every whisper, every promise she had once given me, she was giving to him now. That night she came home late again, hair tousled, eyes sparkling. She kissed me, said, "Traffic was awful." I looked her in the eye and nearly laughed. Traffic doesn't leave perfume on your neck, but I didn't say a word, not yet. Instead, I collected more. Credit card charges she couldn't explain. A receipt for champagne. Even a florist delivery note, red roses to an office I'd never heard of. And each time I asked, casually, she'd spin some excuse, laughing it off. But that laugh wasn't for me anymore. It was a shield. And me? I was done being shielded from the truth. I started trailing her, using excuses to leave work early. One evening, I followed her car from a distance, heart pounding as she drove not to the office, not to a friend's, but back to that same neighborhood. I parked 2 blocks away, watched as she met him on the sidewalk, his hand slipping into hers like it had always belonged there. They walked into a bar, neon sign buzzing overhead, and her laugh spilled out into the night like a song I no longer recognized. My chest ached, but I forced myself to stay. I snapped photos, time-stamped them. Proof on top of proof. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me into thinking I imagined it. That night, lying next to her in bed, listening to her breathe steady, I whispered to myself, "Soon." Because the truth is, I wasn't just gathering evidence anymore. I was planning my confrontation. And if she thought she could keep me in the dark, she was about to learn that I'd already lit the fire. The thing about gathering proof is that eventually it stops being about knowing and starts being about showing. And I knew I couldn't carry this weight alone anymore. I wanted her to see it, to face it, to choke on the truth she thought she'd hidden so well. So I set the stage. Saturday night, I told her I made a reservation at her favorite restaurant. The little Italian place downtown with the red brick walls and candlelit tables where she always ordered the same $19 plate of penne arrabbiata and insisted we split tiramisu for dessert. She looked excited, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "You're the sweetest." I almost laughed at the hypocrisy. I wore the navy blazer she loved, not for her, but for me. Armor. My phone was loaded with screenshots, emails, recordings. My jacket pocket held the photos I'd taken. Time-stamped, undeniable. We walked in, the hostess smiled, led us to a corner booth. For a moment everything felt normal, too normal, like we were back in year 1. She reached for my hand, squeezed it, whispered, "You really are the only one who gets me." My chest tightened, but not with love, with rage. I let her order her pasta, let her sip her wine, let her talk about her week at work. And then, when the waiter left us alone, I leaned back, pulled out my phone, and pressed play. Her voice filled the space. "You always make me laugh." Then his voice, unmistakable. "That's because you're mine." She froze. Fork clattered against the plate. Her eyes widened, lips parting as if the air had turned to smoke. What is that?" she stammered. I placed the phone on the table, screen glowing. "Your laugh," I said quietly. "Not with me. With him." She reached out, fumbling to pause it, but I slid the phone out of reach. "No, you're going to listen." I pulled out the photos, laid them down like cards in a losing hand. Her with him outside the bar, his arm around her waist, her smile shining brighter than it had in months with me. Then the emails, the hotel receipts, the flowers, One by one, a pile of betrayals stacked between us. Her face drained of color. "It's not," she tried, but I cut her off. "Don't you dare say it's not what it looks like. Because it's exactly what it looks like. You told me I was the only one, and then you handed my laugh, my forever, to him." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel sympathy. I felt hollow, like the part of me that once cared had been burned out. Other diners started glancing over, forks frozen mid-bite, whispers humming through the room, but I didn't care. Let them watch. Let the whole world see. "How long?" I demanded. She shook her head, trembling. "A few months," she whispered. My fists clenched. "Months? So every time you kissed me goodnight, every time you whispered always, you were laughing with him behind my back?" She buried her face in her hands. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she sobbed. I laughed, sharp, bitter. "Didn't mean for it to happen? You don't fall into hotel rooms and champagne dinners by accident. You don't accidentally call someone else yours." Silence hung heavy. She finally looked up, mascara streaked, voice trembling. "He listens to me. You're always busy, distracted." I felt invisible. That hit me, but only for a second, because even if I'd failed her somehow, betrayal was still a choice, and she chose it. "You could have talked to me," I said coldly. "Instead, you lied. Instead, you handed my place to someone else and told me I was crazy when I noticed." She reached across the table, desperate, but I pulled back. Don't touch me." The waiter appeared, eyes wide, holding the check like a peace offering. I grabbed it, threw my card down, never breaking eye contact with her. When he walked away, I leaned in one last time. "You said I was the only one, so tell me. When you laughed with him, did you tell him the same thing?" Her silence was the answer. The waiter returned, card in hand. I stood, tucked the photos back into my pocket, slid my phone away. She whispered, "Please, don't go." But I already had. Not physically, not yet, but in every way that mattered. I walked out of that restaurant into the cold night, the sound of her sobs following me like shadows. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't look back. But here's the thing. Betrayal has layers. And what I didn't know then was that the worst layer hadn't even surfaced yet. Walking out of that restaurant should have been the end. But you know how it is. Your mind won't rest until every loose thread is tied. I thought the worst part was over, that I'd already swallowed the poison. But truth is, the ugliest part of betrayal is realizing it doesn't stop where you think it does. For days after, she kept calling, texting, sending long paragraphs begging me to come back, swearing she'd made a mistake. I ignored her. I boxed up her things, left them in the hallway. But the questions kept clawing at me. Who was he? Why him? How long had they been laughing at my expense? I couldn't shake the image of her smile in those photos, the way her eyes lit up like she was alive in a way she hadn't been with me for months. And I needed to know the face behind the voice. So one evening I went back through the recordings, isolating his laugh, his speech patterns. Something about it nagged at me, something familiar. Then it hit me. At a barbecue months earlier, I'd heard the same cadence, the same laugh. My blood ran cold. It wasn't a stranger. It was Ryan, my so-called friend, the guy I'd known since high school, the one who'd crashed on my couch after his breakups, the one I'd trusted to drive her home when I was working late. My chest burned as the puzzle pieces locked into place. Every time Ryan had joked a little too easily with her, every time she'd defended him when I called him reckless, every inside joke I didn't get, it had all been happening in plain sight. I felt like a fool. So I called him. No games, no burner phone, just my voice shaking with rage. He answered casual, "Yo, what's up, man?" Like nothing was wrong. I said to cut the act. "I know it's you." Silence. Then a sigh. "She told you?" I almost dropped the phone. "She didn't have to. I heard you. I saw you. I've got proof stacked to the ceiling." He muttered something I'll never forget. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." That same excuse. That same rotten script. My vision blurred. "You came into my home. You ate at my table. You looked me in the eye and called me brother. And all the while, you were stealing what I thought was mine." He tried to defend himself, saying she'd come to him first, that she was lonely, that I'd been too busy with work. But none of it mattered. Betrayal isn't a math problem where blame gets divided. It's a knife, and both their fingerprints were on the handle. I hung up before my fury could spill into words I couldn't take back. That night, she showed up at my door. I didn't answer, but she slid a note under the crack, handwritten, shaking letters. I'm sorry. I don't love him. I love you. Please don't throw this away." I stared at it for a long time. The ink smudged where tears must have fallen. Then I ripped it in half. Because here's the truth. Love without loyalty is just noise. And I was done being deafened by lies. Weeks passed. I started to breathe again. Therapy sessions, long runs, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. Slowly, the hole she left turned into a scar I could live with. But the twist came later. One afternoon, Ryan texted me out of the blue. Just 7 words. She told me I was the only one. My chest tightened, not with heartbreak this time, but with bitter clarity. She hadn't just betrayed me with him. She'd betrayed him, too. The line she whispered into my ear, the promise that once anchored my world, was the same recycled lie she handed to whoever was next in line. I sat there staring at those words, and for the first time since it all began, I laughed. Not the laugh she'd stolen, not the laugh she gave away, but a new one, sharper, freer. Because I realized I was never the only one. And thank God for that. Because now I get to choose who I become without her. And trust me, that laugh, the one that's mine again, she'll never hear it.